This, this Photoshop tutorial will teach you about how to create a clipping mask in Photoshop, how to play around with layers, opacities, and add a tint. So there's lots and lots of things that you can do with clipping masks to create cool effects with your portraits. Let's have a look. What else we've got here? So you can do some really simple things with the clipping mask, like create grids, or you can do more complex surrealist broken mirror style collages. So let's get started. In Photoshop, you need to open up your portrait as a smart object, open it as a smart object so that you can edit non-destructively. Now, every time you create a new clipping mask, you're going to need another copy of your portrait, otherwise you'll have to keep opening it up. So let's just duplicate the portrait to start with. You can do that by either going layer, duplicate layer, which is a little bit too time consuming for me, so I like to use keyboard commands. So just go Command J to duplicate that layer. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our shape tool to start with and just drag out a circle. I'm holding down the shift key so I can create a perfect circle. If I don't hold down the shift key, I can create any kind of ellipse I want. So there's our circle. It doesn't matter what colour it is because we're going to put her face inside the circle, but if you want to change the colour of your shapes, say you want some decorative shapes in the background, then you go into your properties window, which should pop up when you make your shape. Otherwise you can go window and properties to bring it up. Click on the little colour swatch here and go into your colour picker, and then you can change the colour. Okay, so we're going to go back to our layers panel. If you don't have that up, just go window and layers to bring it up. You need to make sure your portrait is on top of the shape. Now I'm going to hold down the Alt key on my keyboard and hover it in between the portrait layer and the ellipse layer. So you'll notice there's a white square with an arrow. Then I'm just going to click, and if I hide the layer underneath, you can see that the portrait is inside the clipping mask. Now if I want to adjust where the portrait is in my clipping mask, I need to select that portrait layer, and now I can drag it around. I can even bring up my transform tool by going Command T and increase the size of that if I want, and then hit enter to get out of transform mode. If I want to move where the circle is, I just click on the circle layer. So let's see what that looks like with the portrait underneath. Okay, so I'm going to do this a couple of times using some different shapes to create this sort of effect here. So I'm going to duplicate this layer again, just so I've got a spare copy. I'm going to go to my shape tool and drag out a rectangle shape now. Make sure the portrait is sitting over the rectangle. Hold down Alt on my keyboard and hover in between the two layers and then click. And now that one's gone inside. Shift where that rectangle is sitting, and I might also blow up the size of it. Enter. Okay, so we're starting to get a few layers happening here. I'm going to keep going. Now I'm hitting V to go back to my selection tools, or you can select the move tool, but V on your keyboard is a nice quick and easy shortcut. Hold down Alt and click between the two layers. Command J to duplicate that layer again. I'll do one last shape. I'm going to go Command T to go into transform mode so I can change the rotation of this shape. Hit Enter to get out of transform mode. Enter. Drag that portrait on top, hold down Alt on your keyboard and click to make the clipping mask. There we go. There we go. Now at any point you want to merge these layers together so that it's just easier to work with. You can hold down Shift on your keyboard and select both of the layers, then go Control click and just go merge layers. And now it's easier to shift around. Now hold down Shift again and merge these two layers. Go Control click and then merge layers. Oops, that's working. Yeah, never mind. Oh, that's why. And the aim of this exercise really is just to create something that is well balanced compositionally. And something that's visually interesting. Okay, now I'm going to play around with the tints of all of these objects. So I'm going to select this rectangle to begin with and go Image, Adjustments, and then we can go to Photo Filter. I'll increase the density and I might keep that colour at orange. And then I'll go to this circle layer and go Image, Adjustments, Photo Filter. So you can either choose the colour you want by clicking on that and bringing up your colour picker, or you can go Image, Adjustments, Photo Filter, and then select one of these ready-made filters. Okay. Now I'm going to add some just normal shapes in the background. So I'll grab my shape tool again and drag out an ellipse shape. I want to change the colour of this, so I'll go to my properties box, double click on the colour picker and select that yellow colour. And then I'll obviously not thinking too much about colour choices here because it's not looking very good. That's okay. Now I want to play around with the opacity of some of these objects, so I'm going to select this rectangle, and in your layers you can change the opacity of each layer. So I'll just play around with the opacity of some of these layers. And see how that looks. I'm going to create a new layer now and just drag that to the very bottom of the pile and drag out a rectangle the size of the canvas for the background. And there you have it, a nice little clipping mask surrealist collage.